Hey, what's going on, you guys? Saeed here, and welcome to the first installment of the Legendary Performers of the Week, where I like to look back at the week that was for the Ottawa Senators and determine who were the key contributors in the team's success over that period of time, while also adding a little bit of the past and respect to the legends from before. Now, this is going to be a little bit different because I wanted to incorporate last night's game. And I figured, you know what, there's only one game in this week. The guys are going to be off for about a week and a half now. Why not include last night's game with last week's games and consider it kind of like a pseudo legendary performers of the week and a half? Whatever, y'all get my drift. So let's get started. Let me think here. So Chris Neil. Chris Neil is one of the greatest Senators, obviously, to ever wear the sweater. He ranks third in games played, first in hits, first in PIMs. He was an instant momentum shift. He was the ultimate energy guy. He was unselfish, aggressive, impactful. He was a great guy off the ice as well, actually, with his community work, and still is doing all that stuff. What an unbelievable guy, an unbelievable player. But we're focusing on his on-ice attributes here. And the Kneeler of the Week is aptly named after him. And this distinction goes to the player that obviously provided the biggest momentum shift, the best energy consistently, the most unselfish play from a forward consistently, could be also considered the biggest gamer of the week. And I figured, you know what, this one's going to be a little bit tricky, but only because of the age of this guy. Remember, Winnipeg game sucked, complete blowout. Pittsburgh game sucked, complete blowout. Josh Norris gets injured for the season, and everybody's vibes are like way down. Enter Ridley Gregg, and put him in between Claude Giroux and Alex DeBrincat, and watch the kid completely transform the top six. Insofar as adding that youthful enthusiasm, that willingness to go into the dirty areas despite his size, and he's only going to get bigger and stronger. Obviously, he's just a young guy right now, so he doesn't have his man strength, let alone his pro hockey player strength. But that isn't stopping him from getting in front of the net and taking his bumps. He took a lot of them against the Islanders. I remember Pulock was throwing him around a little bit. But at the same time, he's engaging, and he's, you know, going into the board battles and coming out with pucks, and what an unbelievable spirit to his game. And everything that he does is actually done with a lot more finesse than I anticipated, and I think most people anticipated. Now, y'all know I'm a big Greg fan, but even this, like, his performances in these 4 games that he's been with the team have really been quite impressive and shocking. And I think most people have to admit that putting in between DeBrincat and Giroux, obviously the results speak for themselves, but it was a pleasant surprise, and it has everything to do with this guy's willingness to do whatever it takes to win, whatever it takes to succeed, and whatever it takes to beat the opposition, especially during his own shift. So for that, young Ridley Gregg, you are the first ever Kneeler of the Week recipient. Congratulations. Moving on. The Big Rig of the week. Now, don't get it twisted, because there is currently right now a guy playing in Tampa that likes to consider himself the Big Rig. But we all know here in Ottawa who the real Big Rig is, and that is none other than Chris Phillips. Chris Phillips is ranked first in games played for this franchise. I think he's got one on Alfie, or I don't know, I could be wrong, but he's ranked first in games played. Awesome. I think he's ranked first in blocked shots. He's also, I think, top 5 in hits. I could be wrong, but Chris Phillips. I don't know if I said Neil a second ago, but Chris Phillips is so much more than the counting stats. You know, this guy was a guy who was steady. You can rely on him in the final minute or 2 of a game when you're trying to protect the lead. He was a horseback there. He was a phenomenal crease clearer. Him and Volchenkov had unbelievable years doing that. He was gritty. He was tough. He was tough in the sense of, like, playing between the whistles tough. Guys didn't enjoy their time when he was the defenseman on there marking them. an unbelievable citizen, obviously, outside of the ice as well, off the ice, excuse me, in the community. One of my favorite all-time guys. And yeah, just the Big Rig recipient of the week needs to go to somebody that could, somebody that's worthy enough to fulfill that type of lofty distinction. And I think, surprisingly enough, we're going to go back-to-back rookies here. And I'm going to give this week's Big Rig of the week to none other than Jake Sanderson, because this guy, he's on game 49 going on game 500, right? Like, what an unbelievably poised, responsible, confident young player who just, for whatever reason, does everything right all the time. It's got to be pretty good. It's got to be pretty good to be able to have that ability. And I think with this guy, the thing that surprises me the most, aside from the fact that he's incredibly poised and he's incredibly, obviously talented, is that no matter how high you set the expectations for him, he just continues to either meet or exceed. He's on game 50, and yet he is so polished at such an early age. He exercised that same poise that you would have seen from a Chris Phillips back in the day. He is unselfish. He is so much more than certainly a stay-at-home defenseman. But the thing about this guy that's so exciting is the fact that he is such an elite stay-at-home defenseman at such an early age. He can beat you. He can beat you one-on-one when he's playing defense in transition. He's an absolute menace to the opposition when he's playing D in his own zone. He's going to make his mistakes, I get it. And I'm kind of tongue-in-cheeking a lot of the stuff, saying that does everything right all the time. But you get my drift. He is such a phenomenal talent, such a brilliant young hockey player that obviously the sky is the limit, but even the sky might be holding back what this guy's true potential is. I mean, this guy, he's going to be a Norris Trophy winner. And it's not me saying that just because I'm a biased fan, even though I am, unabashedly biased. Y'all know me for that. But, the experts and the analysts all say the same thing. This guy is an extremely gifted young player who has a very bright future and more than likely a Norris Trophy or two in his cabinet coming up. So for that, the Big Rig of the week goes to one Jake Sanderson. Next is, so we've done Nealer, the Big Rig. Let me think here. Had a couple forwards in mind. Yes. No, I have another defender in mind. One of my all-time favorites. One of the guys from the glory years. I mean, y'all are pretty familiar with this dude. During his time with the Senators, this specific player was considered one of the premier puck-moving defensemen in the world, let alone the league. Tremendous poise on the puck, tremendous vision, fantastic touch and ability to pass, especially that first pass, unbelievable wheels, decent size, and wasn't easy to play with in his own end. Just a tremendous all-around player who just happened to be a fantastic offensive defenseman. I am talking about none other than the one that is Wade Redden, the Reds of the week. I might have to work on that. I think that's what they used to call him, so I just figured, I'll go with that. The Reds of the week. Now, that's a high distinction as well, because that needs to be given to the defenseman that has proven the ability to be essentially a game breaker offensively in the back. A play driver from the back end with his feet, with his vision, and with his decision-making, essentially with the puck. And I could have gone with the rookie that was mentioned previously in the Big Rig recipient winner, that is Jake Sanderson. But I figured I'm going to go with this one guy because he has, despite a revolving door of partners, consistently churned out fantastic performance after fantastic performance, especially in this last week, whereby we saw him accumulate 1 goal, 3 assists, I think a couple points on the power play, just numerous moments of him just going end to end, He is essentially a one-man breakout, which is a fantastic tool to have as a coach, and I'm sure I mean, a lot of people we give Coach Smith a tough time because he's playing Shabby upwards of 27, 28, 29 minutes a night in some instances, and repeatedly so. But can you blame him when you got a guy that has this type of ability? That being said, the last week and a half especially, we've seen this guy go from those high minutes to about 23 to 24 minutes a game, which is exactly what you want to see a player of that nature who's supposed to deliver that type of production for you. You want to see him in that time frame, because he's going to be fresh throughout the game, the duration of the game, especially when it comes to money time, which is near the end of the game, and you need that extra goal, or you need that, that big play made. And I'm talking about none other than number 72 that wears the A for the Sens. I'm talking about Thomas Chabot. And Thomas Chabot, what a fantastic run of form that he's in right now. Long may it continue. A guy that continuously takes hits to make plays, continuously plays banged up, and Coach Smith said it the other night, there's a lot of stuff that he plays through that most guys probably would not, and I appreciate that so much from this guy. So Thomas, I mean, I'm your #1 fan, so keep doing your thing, bruh. You are the recipient of the Reds of the Week. And finally, last but very, very, very much so not the least, the legends of all legends when it comes to this organization, the Daniel Alfredsson recipient. No, let me try this again, excuse me. The Alfie of the Week, obviously aptly named after one Daniel Alfredsson, who, I mean, his statistics and all that kind of stuff goes without saying, but just a quick kind of overview of what he's done for this organization. He's first in goals, first in assists, first in points. Whenever you need a big goal, he's your man. Whenever you need a big play made, he's your man. Something needs to be said in the locker room. He is a quiet leader, but there is word of him speaking up when the time was right. I won't get into it too much, but I'm sure you guys have all heard the instant when Coach Paul McLean was berating the team, and Alfie just kind of told him to shut up, essentially. No offense to Coach McLean. Not that you're going to watch this, but if you do, no offense. He's a quiet leader, but he's a leader nonetheless. And he leads by example. And for that, he obviously deserves, I guess, a distinction named after him. So the Alfie of the Week has to go to somebody that delivers a lot. And by a lot, I mean, you got to deliver production-wise, and you've got to deliver by leading by example. And it's interesting because you would think that finding someone that fits that combination might be tricky. And I think on a lot of teams it would be. But for the Sens, there's multiple guys that you can see fit this bill on a given night, in a given week. This week especially, there were a couple guys that really stood out to be worthy candidates of this. And actually, I should say there was at least 3 guys that were on my list of, guys who should be considered who should have that kind of one-time, very rare distinction of being the first ever to receive this recognition of the Alfie of the Week. But I had to go with this one guy who, how do I put this? Well, he came to this team in the summertime, signed on as a free agent, could have chosen several other destinations because of the quality of player that he is. He chose to come back home, even though this isn't where he grew up, but obviously where he played as junior, and he's from the area, I guess you can say, so to speak. He spent a lot of time here when he was younger. Talking about Claude Giroux, obviously. What an unbelievable free agent signing he's turning out to be, and it just keeps getting better and better. And for those who are concerned about his age and if he's able to sustain this type of quality of play, Alfie had some of his best years in his mid-30s. Don't ever forget that. And how did that happen? How was his prime extended? And you got to look into it. Like, he had a young Jason Spezza, young Danny Heatley. Surround him with youth, and not just youth, but talented youth that have high hockey IQ. When you got Alex DeBrincat on your line, and you've got Ridly Greig. Ridly is obviously unproven, but DeBrincat, we know what he is. He's a potential game breaker every shift. But not only that, he has the hockey IQ to hang with a Claude Giroux, who arguably has, top 5 hockey IQ in the game going right now. And Ridly Greig, obviously an I shouldn't even say underappreciated, because we're just learning about this guy in the pro level by the game, but he's already showing early on that he has what it takes to at least know where to be on the ice when he's playing with these two guys. And playing with two guys of this quality, having this type of hockey IQ, and being able to hang with them and succeed, that's only a good sign for that line. So what am I trying to say? I think that this could be sustainable, at least for the next 2 years. So this year and the following year, and I wouldn't be surprised if it even happens the year after that as well. Why? Because he's playing with guys that think the game on the same level that he does, at least have the ability to. And Ridley's obviously learning by the shift, and that's the best part about this whole thing. Not only is Claude going to give you 5 goals and 3 assists and a game-winning goal, and I think 3 power play goals and like a +3 or whatever over the week and a half that has just passed, but he's going to give you those one-on-ones on the bench after a shift, teaching Ridley about the game, about what happened, and in real time. It's like having a coach on the ice, and man, that's a luxury that you can't put a price tag on that. And for that, I think that his deal is an absolute steal. And if he maintains this production, I think he will, but if he does, and he delivers this type of mentorship to a guy like a Ridly Greig, who is showing all sorts of promise, and to a guy like Alex DeBrincat, who isn't an older player at all by him, who has still room to learn and perfect his craft, man, it's going to be the greatest signing in the history of this organization. It probably already is. So yeah, congratulations, Claude, for being the first ever, and probably the first of many for him, Alfie of the Week recipient. Now, that's it for this week, and I want to say apologies for the helter-skelterness of this whole thing. I understand that you guys recognize how top tier my production quality is, and I thank you for lasting this long. But I will say this, I appreciate y'all watching this. I might do another one eventually, but yeah, this has been a fun experiment thus far, and yeah, thanks so much. All the best to you and your loved ones, and as always, go Sens go. Peace.